Welcome to the City Club of Eugene's September 24th, 2021 program, The Night Campus, How the Growth of a Research Juggernaut Can Change the World and Eugene. This is the third program for our 2021-22 programming year. I'm Kitty Piercy and I'm the City Club President. Support for the City Club is provided by our members and sponsors. You can become a member of the City Club at our website, cityclubofueugene.org. Our programs are always available on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. We also have a podcast, which is available and programs are broadcast on public radio station KLCC 89.7 on Monday nights at 7. We have both business and in-kind sponsors, including our diamond sponsors, Kaiser Permanente, University of Oregon, Peace Health, Lane Community College, as well as a generous support from the City of Eugene and from Lane County. In today's program, we welcome Robert Goldberg, Vice President and Executive Director, Night Campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact. Biographical information on our speakers is available at our website, cityclubofueugene.org. I would like to thank Andrew Kallick for coordinating today's program. The Night Campus, How the Growth of a Research Juggernaut Can Change the World in Eugene. In 2016, Penny and Phil Knight donated $500 million, the largest gift ever given to a U.S. public flagship university at the time, to launch the Night Campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact at the University of Oregon. As described by U of O, the goal of the campus is to, quote, fast-track scientific discoveries into innovation that improve the quality of life of people in Oregon, the nation, and the world. The campus creates the intellectual infrastructure to establish Oregon as a center for both research and development, making Oregon a place where companies can start up, grow, and stay, unquote. 5 years and another $500 million donation later, we'll check in with Executive Director Robert Goldberg to see how the Night Campus is changing the world through research and development and changing Eugene through the construction of a new campus on Franklin Boulevard. We'll also get a preview of what's coming next and how the discoveries and inventions emerging from the campus can have an impact right here at home. Our format today includes a question and answer period with City Club members via Zoom.
Hello, this is Andrew Kallick. Welcome to the City Club of Eugene. If you've been driving down Franklin Avenue anytime in the past couple of years, you probably noticed a magnificent new campus emerging from the fertile soil along the Willamette River. That is the Phil and Penny Knight Campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact. And today we have the pleasure of hearing from the executive director of that campus, Bob Goldberg, who will provide a presentation of what is happening right now on campus and how it can impact both Eugene and the broader community. After Bob's presentation, we'll have time for question and answers from our City Club audience. But for now, Bob, take it away.
Well, thank you, Andrew. It's a real pleasure to be here today and to speak to this City Club. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides, and I'll do my best to describe what's on the slides for the listeners. Okay, is that visible to everybody?
It is.
Okay, wonderful. Well, yeah, as I said, it's a real pleasure to present today on what's going on with the Night Campus. As you said, there's a beautiful campus rising and a bridge over Franklin Boulevard that's gone up. We'll talk about that sort of construction project and what our plans are going forward. But more importantly, I think what's going on in the building. Obviously, we've had the same challenges as a lot of people during COVID, but I think you'll agree we've really made some fantastic progress in the last couple of years, getting the campus off the ground and functional and starting to make an impact, which is the mission of the Night Campus. What you can see here is actually the view from the back of the campus. So this is the first building that went up with the first gift from Phil and Penny Knight, and it's from the mill race. So this is not on the Franklin Boulevard side. It's actually one of my favorite views of the campus, and you can see through the connector between the two towers and how beautiful it is in terms of its lighting and transparency within the building. So the mission and vision of the Knight campus is really science advancing society. Quite simply, it's to accelerate the cycle of translating scientific discoveries in academic labs into societal impact. And frankly, that's a process that often isn't very fast. Academic institutions are amazing for the discoveries and innovations that they have, but the process of getting those out into societal impact, which can take the form of startup companies, but it can take also other forms, is often an inefficient process. And so the Knight campus really is designed around trying to break down those barriers, remove the friction points, if you will, to making that easier for faculty and students to innovate. And you can see here we've developed a strategic plan around what we call the impact cycle, which is this discovery to development and deployment. And there are 5 pillars of the strategic plan that are available on our website at accelerate.uoregon.edu. And I won't go into those in detail, but really one of the points I want to make here is that often people think about research being either very basic science or applied and translational. And one of the things the Knight campus is trying to get across is that it's not an either or, but rather can be a cycle of discovery and then at the basic science level, moving that into more applied science and entrepreneurship. And then as you do that, and I've had the pleasure of starting several companies during my career, it often generates a lot of very interesting questions that are not really appropriate for a business to take on. And that feeds back into the academic setting and typically more grants from the NIH and the NSF and back into basic discovery. And so this really is a cyclical process that can feed both the basic science and knowledge generation as well as translational impact. So we've broken the Knight campus really up into what we call different phases. The first phase is really laying the foundation. And this was achieved with a wonderful gift from Phil and Penny Knight, a $500 million gift that was distributed over 10 years. And the primary purpose of that gift was to build a world-class facility that you now see on Franklin Boulevard. And so that gift was given in 2016. The design process was begun for the building. I was not here in 2016. I didn't arrive until 2018. I was at Georgia Tech running a large research institute there and was recruited to come here and lead the Knight campus in 2018. And at that time, there was just a hole in the ground. The building was just starting to go up. What resulted was a 172,000 square foot building, 5-story building. It has research laboratories in it, but it's really a mixed use building. It also has classrooms, teaching labs, what we call shared core facilities, which are facilities that are open to other labs on campus. It's open to other institutions in the state. It's also open to companies to come in and use really high-end instrumentation that's more expensive than you'd have in an individual lab. We also have an innovation center. I'll talk about that a little bit, that facilitates spin-off companies. And as I said, these flexible teaching environments for applied science and engineering. Now we moved in actually just about 1 year ago. Looking at these pictures, flash back to early September of last year, and you'll recall not only were we in a pandemic, of course, but we're also at the peak of the smoke and the fires in Oregon. And so we moved in under smoky skies, immediately filled the filters in the building in 1 day that were meant to last an entire year. And it's really amazing to me to look at these pictures of us unpacking boxes and furniture in plastic wrap just a year ago to see how far we've come in just that short time. We celebrated in December 2020 the grand opening of the first building. And of course, the original plan was to do this in person and have an event for the community. But COVID required us to pivot to another plan, and we ended up having a virtual grand opening. And it was one of those situations where it turned out to maybe be a better situation because we reached many times more people with the virtual grand opening than we ever could have done with a more traditional in-person event. So over 4,500 views of the grand opening event. This is the leadership team. I'm really fortunate to have a fantastic leadership team of people that are veterans of the University of Oregon, really know how to get things done on campus. And we're taking on so many different challenges, trying to build research and education programs and innovation programs all at the same time while building buildings, that it's really just critical to have such strong leadership. So Moira Kilty is our chief of staff. Jim Hutchison is a longtime chemistry professor who is senior associate vice president in the Knight campus and leading all of our academic programs. And then Andrew Nelson is actually a primary appointment in the business school, but is assigned part-time in the Knight campus to help us with our innovation programs. And Andrew, I think, is a great example of how we're connecting to different programs across campus, but also very committed to the innovation aspect, building the innovation ecosystem through partnership with the business school. We have been very aggressively recruiting faculty to fill the building. So just in 3 short years, we've recruited 12 faculty that you can see here. Very proud of the fact that we have both a diverse group of people, but also a diversity of areas of research. And you'll notice that there's quite a bit of engineering in here. And that's the first time for the University of Oregon to be able to offer engineering programs to our students, and also to be recruiting engineering faculty. So just a wonderful mix of folks working in areas like neuroengineering, regenerative medicine, biomaterials, synthetic biology, and so forth. So very proud of these folks. The young faculty that we're hiring are having great success in their grants so far. And it's really added a lot of life to the building with them and their research groups filling the labs in building number 1. In July of this year, we were fortunate to be able to make a second gift announcement, just showing incredible faith by Phil and Penny Knight that we were on the right track in building the Knight campus. They made a second amazing $500 million gift to the Knight campus. Similar to the first gift, it's $500 million distributed over 10 years, and it will primarily fund the second phase of the Knight campus, which includes a second building, a 175,000 square foot building, which will be located on the other side of the mill race. If you're familiar with the area, the parking lot, the open parking lot that's there along Riverfront Parkway, will be the site of the second building and connect to the first building. And this will be to really continue to build out the research and innovation space, as well as academic spaces in the Knight campus, and build a critical mass of engineering and applied science faculty and research. Ultimately, we'll be able to house a total of about 30, maybe a little more than 30 research groups, each of which will have approximately 10 to 12 people in them. So several hundred people already in the building, the first building, and we'll be adding the second building, which is slated for completion in 2025. We had a second really exciting gift announcement in July of this year. And this is a great example of how the Knight campus is providing a beacon to Oregon and to the University of Oregon that we're a first-tier research institution now, and playing with all the big institutions in these areas. This particular award was provided by Joe and Clara Sy Foundation. It's a partnership with 5 other premier institutions, including Stanford, Boston Children's, which is a Harvard Medical School affiliate, the University of California, San Diego, the Salk Institute, and the University of Kansas. And the focus of this project, which is a 10-year project funded with a $220 million gift, is to really, rather than study disease, which is a very important thing. We do this in cardiovascular, we do it for cancer, we do it for brain disorders, and lots of funding applied to those areas very appropriately. But one of the areas that's been relatively underfunded is the musculoskeletal area, and really studying, what do we need to do from the from molecular level all the way up to the whole body level to understand and apply principles and technologies to achieve peak performance. And of course, this is very important to elite athletes, and Joe and Clara own the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Liberty, who drafted Sabrina Ionescu last year. Very proud of how she's doing. But it's also something that all of us, whatever stage of life you are at, we all want to be operating at our peak. And so this is really a first of its kind effort in this space, both in terms of the funding provided as well as the duration and the partners involved in it. What this is doing locally basically is it's based in the Knight campus, but it's funding research across the campus in the Bowerman Sports Science Center, which is embedded in the new Hayward Field, human physiology, biology, sports product design, and even athletics. And so this is really a collaborative effort of multiple projects across the campus, and then projects that are being funded between the different institutions. Happy to answer more questions about this in the Q&A period. Another really important effort that we've been starting over the last couple of years that's really a combination of the Knight campus, but also another presidential initiative here on campus called the Data Science Initiative. And then in partnership with the Knight Cancer Institute at OHSU is a new Center for Biomedical Data Science. And I think everyone here is probably familiar that data science is being integrated into sort of every form of life right now, every area of business, every aspect of our lives. And certainly that's true in the biomedical space. This particular effort was made possible through the generous donation for Tim and Mary Boyle, both to the University of Oregon and to OHSU, to set up this joint Center for Biomedical Data Science. In a way, this is a Knight-to-Knight collaborative effort because it's a connection between the Knight campus and the Knight Cancer Institute. And we are currently looking for a senior person. We're searching for a director of the effort at U of O, and we'll be building some dedicated space for data science in building number 2 of the Knight campus. Now, this is what I'm showing here on this slide is a partnership with Peace Health locally, and this was really came out of my experiences. Originally, I trained at the University of Michigan, where we had a medical school. I then had an over 20-year career at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, where we had a terrific engineering program, but didn't have a medical school to collaborate with. And so there we solved that by having a partnership with Emory University. Formed a joint department of biomedical engineering with Emory University, and a lot of collaborative efforts that led to big grants, big centers, and also better translation of the technologies into patients. And it's really a synergistic relationship because the engineers and the applied scientists often don't know what the best questions are to be answering, what the best technologies are that are needed. Without having worked with the practitioners in the field, which are the clinicians, and vice versa. The clinicians are don't have the abilities to develop the technologies that they need, and so that's a really important collaboration that I really wanted to form here, and we've done that through our partnership with OHSU. We're doing it through some of these new collaborative opportunities with Stanford, Harvard, and others, but really there's no replacement for proximity. And so we've been also working with Slocum in town, as well as Peace Health, to create these collaborative opportunities between scientists in the Knight campus and clinicians. And so one of these efforts is shown here, which is a new Center for Translational Biomedical Research. And this came out of discussions between myself and Mary Kingston, the CEO, former CEO of Peace Health. And what we really wanted to do here was to address 2 goals. One, of course, as I mentioned, was creating these collaborations between clinicians and researchers in the Knight campus or Knight campus affiliated labs at U of O. But we also wanted to address a real problem in the STEM fields, which is a lack of diversity coming up through and into academic positions. And in particular, some of the literature shows that a real pivot point away from academics by people from diverse backgrounds is at the postdoctoral fellow phase. So this is the phase after their PhD, they're doing a postdoctoral fellowship in preparation for either a career in industry or a career in academia. And there's a lot of evidence to point that there's a lot of pivoting away at that point. And so we created a program designed for postdoctoral fellows from underrepresented groups, and with mentorship to give them basically the confidence that they can do this, they can do an academic career, and give them a competitive edge through these collaborations with clinical partners. And so this is half being funded by Peace Health and half funded by the Knight campus to support these partners. And you can see the initial 4 projects here that are being funded by the effort, and I'll read them for the listeners. One is in 3D printing for surgical planning that's being led by Paul Dalton. And then Karen Gilliman and Judith Eisen at U of O, 2 very distinguished scientists, are studying microbiome effects on visual and neural development disorders. My lab is working on regenerative strategies for osteoarthritis. And then Leslie Lev and Bill Cresco are studying COVID testing and prevention in Latinx communities. And so each of these has a clinical collaborator associated with them, and again, are funding a postdoctoral fellow from underrepresented groups. All right, so now moving into the first building, what I'm showing here are some of the core facilities in the Knight campus. And these are just fantastic facilities that, again, are available to anybody on campus. We recently have a cooperative agreement that's been formed with Oregon State and Oregon Health Sciences and other institutions in the state, where they can also use our facilities at our internal costs, and we can use their internal core facilities at their internal costs. These are also available for use by industry. And so the cores that we have focused on are, first of all, in the fabrication space. So we have state-of-the-art fabrication facilities and 3D printing facilities. We have a clean room, which is where you would make, in our case, making neural implants for interfacing with the brains. Matter of fact, we are working on that. And then a very high-end imaging facility that has high-end instrumentation for imaging tissues and materials. As I mentioned earlier, we also have an innovation center built into the Knight campus. And this is really based on the fact that as you're doing technologies and wanting to spin them out into companies, it makes a huge difference whether there is locally available space for those very early startups to begin. It needs to be relatively inexpensive because they often don't have a lot of money. And so we have created leasable space, about 6,000 square feet, in the Knight campus that's available for startup companies to come in and get off the ground. Now, last year, we did have some companies that were making inquiries about moving into this space, but the campus also needed some space for a COVID testing lab. And so we made the decision to pivot temporarily and use that innovation center for COVID testing. And that allowed us, the university, to ramp up very quickly its ability to do COVID testing for not only the university, but the local Eugene Springfield community. And this ultimately, with some funding from the state and funding from the federal government, had the capacity to do up to 20,000 samples per day. But even though we gave up sort of our innovation space temporarily in the building, we still have been working to spin off companies. And I'm very proud that in the very short time the Knight campus has been open, we've already spun off 3 companies. Restore 3D is a 3D printing company that already has about $4 million in revenue. And I'll tell you a little more about that in a moment. Pandaria Technologies is an earlier stage company that just got its first SBIR funding from the federal government. And it's designed basically to develop sensors that are embedded in medical devices to provide health feedback, potentially as a wearable, but actually the primary focus of Pandaria is to put the sensors into implantable medical devices like orthopedic devices, so that when a patient is rehabilitating, the physical therapist or the doctor can get real-time feedback on how they're doing. And then finally, DiceRx is an innovation startup from Dr. Bala Ambadi, who's a physician scientist in the Knight campus, also a practicing clinician in the Eugene area. And his lab is developing new technologies for eye disorders such as macular degeneration. So this is just showing a little bit more information here on this slide for Restore 3D, which is one of the startups that I've been involved in. This is a company that I started before I arrived at the University of Oregon with a collaborator named Ken Gall. This company actually, the way it was spun out was really my favorite mechanism of doing that, which is that we trained one of our PhD students in aspects of business and entrepreneurship as he was getting his PhD. And then as the company spun out and he finished his PhD, that student became the CEO of this company. And the company's doing extremely well. It has, as I said, $4 million in revenue. And what it does basically is allow customized implants to be made for patients. And it starts by taking an image with a clinician, and then you do a design meeting with the clinician. You can see in this particular case, a design meeting met on September 14th. An implant was printed that's customized to the patient's anatomy 1 week later. And then 2 weeks after that, the implant was implanted into the patient. And so the innovation cycle using this approach to making medical devices, you can see, is a matter of weeks, rather than a matter of typically 7 to 10 years, which was often the cycle for taking products through FDA approval. And so this is FDA approved through a customization exemption. You can do this just on single patients, but the company is also developing standard shaped and sized devices, but with unique architectures you can see here for bone ingrowth that can only be made using 3D printing. So I think this is really exciting. I think this is probably the future of medical device manufacturing. And you can see here that there's all kinds of different products throughout the body that can be made using this customized 3D printing approach, from femoral cages to replacements for the hip, to spine fusion devices, and even ankle or talar replacements for the foot. Now, moving on to some of our training programs that we're really excited about. I'll start at the undergraduate level. Knight Campus is primarily focused on graduate education right now. But, you know, I got my start in research as an undergraduate at the University of Michigan, just knocking on doors, trying to find opportunities, seeing if, you know, research was a career that I would enjoy. And so it's always been a priority for me throughout my career to provide opportunities for undergraduates. Too often, though, these opportunities are very short. They might be just a single term or maybe over a summer, and it's really not enough time for the students to fully assess whether it's a good career for them, nor is it really time for them to be able to contribute to the laboratory. And so when I was at Georgia Tech, we designed a program that was longer term. It was a full year mentored experience. It serves actually as a program to provide mentorship training to our graduate students and postdocs. And then for the undergraduates, it provides them a stipend to do a full year in a laboratory. And then that's enough time. I tell them, all of them, that I expect them to make enough progress to earn authorship on a publication. And it just really turned out to be a program that appealed to not only the undergraduates, but also to the faculty and to the mentors, graduate students and postdocs. And so we've recreated that program here. We're growing it every year. We started with 6 scholars. We're now up to 12 scholars this year. And it's completely funded through philanthropic support. So a variety of companies and individuals and foundations provide $11,000 per year, which is the cost to support a named scholar in this program. And then moving up now to the master's level, we have a program called the Knight Campus Graduate Internship Program. And this program actually is quite mature. It existed at the University of Oregon long before the Knight Campus was formed, but never really had a home. And it really fits the mission of the Knight Campus in terms of what it's trying to do. And so we moved this into the Knight Campus, so it now has an administrative home. It also has really fantastic new teaching labs. And so the Knight Campus Graduate Internship Program is an accelerated master's program with an internship. And what's really unique about this program is that it's designed around the needs of industry. And so for every new track, and there's 5 tracks currently in this program, there's a just customer discovery process, basically, that you go out and you talk to industry and say, what are the skills, what are the areas that you really need, where are your workforce needs? And then we design a master's program around that. And so it's a fantastic option for students that maybe aren't ready to go on and do a full PhD, really want to go into industry. They come in and do 6 months of intense coursework, hands-on, most of it, and then go out and do internships with companies. And the companies line up for this program. They get fantastic talent into their companies. And you can see here on this slide some fantastic metrics. So we currently have 157 students enrolled in this program. We have a 98% graduation rate, which is just amazing. 90% of the graduates are employed in their field within 3 months of graduation. And the internship that they earn while they're doing the master's has an average annual salary of $60,000 a year. So they're more than paying for their master's with their internship. And then finally, perhaps the most impressive part, due to an intentional focus a couple of years ago of our staff and really active recruiting, we have this year 61% of our students in the 2021 class that are from traditionally underrepresented groups in STEM. So really, really very proud of this program. It continues to grow, and we're considering adding a 6th track this year. And then again, moving further along in the degrees, we've now created a PhD program, and we've done this jointly with Oregon State University. So this is a joint bioengineering PhD program. It was officially approved October 28th, 2020. And it's the only joint PhD program between the University of Oregon and Oregon State. And I have to give credit to Scott Ashford, the Dean of Engineering at Oregon State, who's a great friend and great partner in helping to make this happen. And for U of O, it's the first engineering degree ever offered at the University of Oregon. So a lot of firsts, and very exciting to be able to do this. Our sort of motto that we've gone forward with this is that, together, working together, we can be stronger and raise the rankings of these programs by collaborating together and creating a joint program. And so just on the UO side, our first cohort last year was 8 PhD students. We had 12 join this year. I think there'll be even more in our 3rd class next year. So it's growing very rapidly. And the numbers on the Oregon State side are also very impressive. They had their biggest class ever last year as well. So it's clearly the synergy of working together is working. The other unique part about this program that I'm very excited about is we've implemented some career planning and professional development aspects very early in the PhDs of these students. And so we're actually currently in what we call Impact Week, where the students are getting training in entrepreneurship and innovation. They're getting training in science communications through collaboration with our School of Journalism here at U of O. They're getting training in bioethics, training in diversity and inclusion, all up front, so that they're armed to make as fast a progress in their PhDs as they possibly can. And then they move on and take their advanced coursework in bioengineering. So we're very excited about this program. And really excited about the quality of the students that we're already being able to attract to the program. And there are other residual benefits of having a joint program like this. We found that there's some increased collaborations happening between Oregon State and the University of Oregon. This is just shown one here where Dr. Marian Hederachi, who's an assistant professor here in the Knight campus, is collaborating with Dr. Caitlin Fogg from Oregon State University. Dr. Hederachi is an expert in using computational methods and experimental methods to engineer novel proteins. And Dr. Fogg is an expert in immune cells and immunoengineering. And so they've combined to create an NIH grant that's currently under review. All right, so let's now talk a little bit about the economic impact of research and training. The full vision over the Knight campus developed over the coming years calls for more than 500 students ranging from the undergraduate to the doctoral level. We are just launching this year actually a minor in bioengineering at the University of Oregon. So this will also be impacting students in the sciences who will have the opportunity to do a minor in bioengineering as they're getting their degree in biology, chemistry, physics, human physiology, and other areas. We will recruit approximately 40 faculty in phase 1 and phase 2, and have an estimated total number of employees of 600 to 700. Just in the last year, we actually onboarded 76 new faculty and staff. So that was amazing tip of the hat to our human resources folks who had to onboard a ton of people. And somebody calculated that amounted to about 40,000 miles of relocation to Eugene, Oregon. We're currently training 20 PhD students, 150 master's level students. And actually, I learned yesterday we have 11 postdoctoral fellow students here also, which is also really great. We, in terms of grant support, our faculty were really busy. One of the things that, even as research was relatively slowed down during COVID, it provided people maybe a little more time and space to write grant proposals. And so we've submitted 46 proposals for peer review over the last year. 32 of those are still pending, but have already received 13 awards, accounting for about $4 million in new grant support. And then all in all, beyond the gift from Phil and Penny Knight, we've received about $45 million in new funding commitments from both gifts and grants since we opened the building. So what's next as we think about building out the campus? The vision really is for a 3-building campus. The building 1, as I've already described, is completed, 172,000 square feet building that's right there on Franklin, with the bridge across to the Sciences campus on Central Campus. Building 2 is in the design and concept phase. It will be a very similar size building, about 175,000 square feet, that will be on the parking lot right across the mill race. And this will also be a research and innovation building as we build out the critical mass of the campus. And then building 3, which will also be on Franklin, a little bit west of the first building, is approximately 60,000 square feet. We envision this to be more focused on the academic side as we build out the academic programs at the Knight campus. And that's not currently in the planning stages, it's just at a proposal stage at this point. If we think about what the economic impact of the Knight campus buildings are, the Knight campus phase 1 was all in all a $225 million project. And phase 1 was designed by the architecture firm Iniad Architects in New York, along with Bora Architects in Portland, Oregon, and was built by Hoffman Construction in Portland, Oregon. And you can see here there was many hours and many trades that were involved in building that first building. As we think about building 2, we have a different architect firm this time. Building 2 went out for open bid again, and CGF Architects out of Portland won that bid, and the building will again be built by Hoffman Construction out of Portland. And our priorities here really are, again, 15 to 17 additional lab groups. We are building, as I mentioned earlier, a neighborhood that is specifically designed for computational science for the Biomedical Data Science Center. We'll build in additional shared equipment for facility services that will be, again, available to everybody. And then new training spaces for our advanced bioengineering and applied sciences courses. Additional collaboration convening spaces also, and then not shown here, we're building in what we call spin spaces, which are spaces adjacent to the laboratories that could be available for companies to spin out, or potentially for existing companies to spin in and be located adjacent to the labs for enhancing collaboration. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention we've been hosting a lot of great lectures on campus. We do our Science Night Out community lecture every year, which usually attracts 400 or 500 people to come. We've also started a distinguished lecture series, which has been really fantastic. And the next one is Karen Woolley, distinguished professor from Texas A&M, on October 12th at 3 p.m. And then we've also initiated an entrepreneurship speaker series, which has been extremely popular. Our next one there is Chris Gibson, will be joining us. He's the co-founder and CEO of Recursion, and that lecture will be on October 14th at 11 a.m. So I think I'll stop there, and would be happy to answer some questions if there are any.
Bob, thanks so much for the presentation and for all of the work at the Knight campus, and for everyone who is working under your guidance and leadership. We greatly appreciate it. I want to ask a follow-up about commercialization. You mentioned 3 companies that had been spun off already. And of course, one of the challenges that many research institutions face is just how to keep spin-offs close to home. So much of the venture capital in the United States is focused on the Bay Area or New York or DC, leaving pennies for the rest of us, including in Eugene. So I'm curious what public, private, and academic partners can do collectively to keep more of those spin-off effects close to home and leverage the investments that have already been made in the Knight campus.
Yeah, it's a great question, Andrew. And it's maybe an overused term, but I think an appropriate one. They call it an innovation ecosystem for a reason. And it really does take, as you say, a partnership among many groups. So, with the Knight campus, I think what we're doing is we're building out a critical mass of technologies. And I'm a big believer in that, the main reason that a lot of that activity is focused in Boston and in the Bay Area is really 2 reasons. That there's a lot more entrepreneurial judgment, I will call it, there in terms of people that have done it before. And there's also the workforce, the people to help make those things happen. And so I think we can help with both of those things. We're recruiting people that are innovation and entrepreneurial minded. All the faculty we're bringing are ones that are capable of bringing in NIH grants and doing academic work, but also interested in translating that. And my own interest in doing that really came from the fact that I just, over the course of my career, I realized we were developing things, but the only way to get them into patients and to impact people was to do the commercialization piece. So what can partners do? I think we're creating some initial spaces, some innovation spaces for the companies to spin out in. But then the next step after that, after it goes into out into the private sector, is that they want to be able to find affordable housing. They want to have good schools. They need to have additional space for those companies to move into that's affordable and supported by the local community. So I think that's where we can find that interface and that partnership. Because at some point, I'm an academic entrepreneur, which means that my primary focus is research, teaching, mentorship, and I help build the value of the companies for them to be more successful. But then at some point they get thrown over the fence, and the business people are making those decisions.
Thanks very much. Next question from City Club member Mary Layton. Mary, you're muted. Thank you.
Pictures that you showed and the text that you talked about showed an amazingly diverse workforce. Every team, every set of pictures had men and women of all different kinds. And so I have 2 parts. How did you do that? Because it's really a target for many organizations, especially in Eugene. And the second one is about a smaller program at the university that I wondered if you connect with, the SPICE program.
Yes, we have. We provided some funding for the SPICE program. Well, Mary, thank you for that comment, and thank you for recognizing. I have to give a lot of credit to a lot of our staff in the academic programs, for example, that have really done a lot of active recruiting to help make that happen. But I think that the first thing that we did, and this was before I even arrived, we brought together the community, we brought together stakeholders from industry, and we created a really terrific strategic plan, which is on the website and people can look at. And one of the 5 pillars was diversity and inclusion. And we've actually since gone back and revisited that plan and decided that that's not even good enough. We need really for diversity and inclusion to be integrated into every aspect of what we're doing in the Knight campus. And so part of that was just setting it intentionally as a goal for the campus and one of our core principles. And then after that, it's hard work. It's going out and doing active recruiting. It's making sure your pools are diverse. and basically embracing the fact that diversity is a huge aspect of excellence. And if you don't have it, then you're missing a key piece to really create an excellent program.
So not just the money for SPICE, but opportunities to see what you're doing. The one kid I know who went to SPICE is a girl who's an immigrant from Mexico, now fully bilingual. She talks all the time about the things that she saw at the university this summer.
Good.
And,
That's great to hear.
Thank you very much. Next question from Karin Knudsen.
Hi, thank you so much, Bob, for your remarks and sharing what is happening over at the Knight campus with City Club and our community. I am really delighted that you used that term innovation ecosystem, because my question is about how the Knight campus fits into a part of this broader community, and specifically about neighborhoods and housing. And given the recruiting and that you are seeking with the campus's goals, how does housing fit into that picture? How does the quality of our neighborhoods and the diversity of housing options we have, and the I'm imagining walkable housing options that we have available, fit into that picture? I know it's a big part of academic recruiting nowadays. It's not just individuals, it's individuals and their significant others or their young families. And we want them to be recruited and retained in Eugene. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Karen, thanks. That is a major factor that we think about a lot. Yeah, walkable is great. Likeable is something that, I find a lot of our faculty are looking for. We actually built into the Knight campus, of course, place for people to lock up their bikes and things like that, but also a wellness center. And so we have a place that's there for people to come in and take showers and access the trails along the river and things like that. But directly to your question, I don't know that we're doing anything about housing. It is something I think about a lot. As you've seen, we've been very aggressive in recruiting faculty, and many of them do have young families. And so particularly this last 6 months or so has been a very challenging time for the people we're bringing in to find housing. So some of the faculty I know are renting initially. Others, particularly those with kids, have definitely had to find houses, and it's been quite challenging. So I don't really have good solutions to that. That's outside my area of expertise, but it's definitely something I think about a lot, and I want to make sure that our people coming in have affordable housing that's close to the university. It's really one of the reasons I came to Oregon, one of many reasons, but I was in Atlanta, and I had to commute 45 minutes to an hour every day. And so being in this community and being close to it and being able to be part of it was one of the driving factors that brought me here.
Great, thank you. Next question comes from Joel Corin. Joel.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. This is a very exciting program. My question is that during the course of your comments, you spoke about the economic growth in the construction of the building. What do you foresee as the economic impact of the Knight campus on Eugene when it's up and running?
Yeah, Joel, I mean, that's a hard thing for me to quantify. Again, I'm not an economist, so I think that's hard for me to actually predict. But I think it starts with the workforce development aspects, and really building out well-trained individuals that learn to love this area. And for recruiting, we've had great success both in student recruiting and faculty recruiting, and it seems to be just a matter of getting them here. And once they see the facilities and see the local area, they want to stay. So I think building out workforce in areas that haven't really been strengths in this area, including data science and engineering and applied sciences, I think will contribute to the local economy, because those will be folks that are available to be hired into the existing companies, but also, as we talked about earlier, will make it easier for startup companies to want to stay, because they'll have that available workforce to be able to stay.
Thank you.
Bob, you've mentioned how important grants from the National Science Foundation, the National Institute of Health, the Small Business Innovation Research program are to the success not only of the campus but of the businesses that spin off. Can you talk a little bit about how the Knight campus approaches that process, and maybe, in your opinion, what some of the opportunities and the sort of strengths are that we have when we're pitching the feds in these competitive programs, and what some of the challenges are to the Knight campus and to the Eugene, Springfield area in general to securing these grants?
Yeah, great question, Andrew. I mean, it starts with recruiting great faculty, and I think we're doing really well there. Three of our young faculty that are assistant professors have just gotten their first NIH grants, and they're all under 30. The average age of the first-time recipients of an NIH grant is 44. So I take that as a really good sign that we've recruited some really strong people. How do we make it easier for them? We've done, one aspect of that is actually having really good, strong pre-award support. So we have our staff are fantastic at helping the faculty put together the non-science parts of the applications and making it easier for them to submit grants. That's part of it. We also started during COVID. One of the things we could do was have a Zoom-based mentorship program for grants. And so the faculty put together the first page of those grants, the aims. They send that out to all the other faculty in the Knight campus, and then we schedule a time and we run through it and kind of tear it apart and put it back together, and that helps it be a better quality proposal when it goes in. So that's some of it, and then of course just providing the amazing facilities for the faculty to work in and be able to put into those proposals has also helped.
Excellent, thank you. Corinne, you have another question for Bob.
I do. This is from a City Club member who is curious, when does the Knight campus imagine it will be open for the public to see some of those spaces that can be glimpsed from the mill race or maybe from the edge of Franklin? There's a lot of curiosity, it sounds like, to actually step inside the building or see a tour. Is that something that is on the horizon as COVID situations improve?
Yeah, it's been something we've really wanted to do, and of course have been restricted by COVID to not be able to do that up until very recently. And so just a couple of weeks ago, we did open to the public during business hours, and so people can come in now and actually look around. You can't access the lab floors; those are secure, but those first couple floors, certainly people can come in and see what the building's all about.
Excellent. Mary, you have another question.
Early on in your presentation, you talked about questions that are not appropriate for business to take on. And I learned a little bit more about that as you spoke, but could you elaborate a little bit on that point?
Sure, Mary. Yeah, that's a great point. As a business gets off the ground, it has to be focused on making the company successful. And so they're not going to be digging into basic science questions anymore, even though the work that's being done probably is generating some of those questions. And so that's the cycle I was talking about, that at some point it spins off into a company, but there's still residual questions that are appropriate for the academic lab to dig back into. And so our role really, we want to form companies, but most importantly, we want to form successful companies. And so as the academics, what we're doing is trying to build that value in the technology before it goes off into the business sector. And then, you cede control of it at that point. The business people who have the time to do it and are frankly better trained to do it, go off and do that. But one of the things that really we focus on is making sure that we get really strong publications on the technology, because that in the end does really help the business quite a bit.
Excellent. Last question is about the impact cycle that the Knight campus talks about, how you're hoping to create a sort of flywheel effect that can leverage the university's investment. And I wondered if there's the equivalent of an impact cycle for the local community, how the local institutions and government can support what the Knight campuses are already doing to ensure that we maximize the impact of the investment right here at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been a big goal of mine as I came in. I didn't want the night campus to be a standalone silo type of organization. And so within the University of Oregon University at whole, we've connected with the business school and with the School of Journalism and with the College of Arts and Sciences in order to create that synergy that you mentioned. And then within the community, we've created the partnership with Peace Health, and we're working with Slocum. And so we've even created a partnership this summer with Kids Sports for recreational sports and community outreach, where we're trying to provide opportunities for underprivileged kids, but also introduce science through sport. And so I think there'll be lots of those opportunities. We're interested in doing that. I had a program in Atlanta called Project Engages that brought in kids from the middle school and high school levels into the laboratories, and I hope we'll be able to do that at some point as well.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Bob. And thank you again to everyone at the Knight campus, the undergrads, the grad students, the professors who are making our university community, but also the broader world, a better place. We'll see you next time on the City Club of Eugene. Take care.
Well, great to talk to you, and thanks so much for the invitation.
This has been our September 24th, 2021 program, The Knight Campus, How the Growth of a Research Juggernaut Can Change the World in Eugene. I'd like to recognize our diamond sponsors today. Kaiser Permanente exists to provide high quality, affordable healthcare services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information at www.kp.org. Support comes also from the University of Oregon. Since 1876, the U of O has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically. More information at uoregon.edu. Peace Health. Peace Health is proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond. As your hometown healthcare partner for more than 80 years, our mission is to keep you and your family healthy. Learn more at peacehealth.org. Lane Community College. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. I'd also like to acknowledge our Ruby sponsor, Johnson & Johnson, Lucas & Middleton. Support for the City Club comes from Johnson & Johnson, Lucas & Middleton, a team of experienced, compassionate attorneys fighting for justice. If you've been seriously harmed by wrongdoing and need help, contact them at justicelawyers.com. Our Sapphire sponsor, Bennett & Dean Real Estate. Support comes from Bennett & Dean Real Estate, a full-service real estate brokerage offering a comprehensive range of services for buying or selling a Lane County residence. For more information, visit bennettdean.com. And our gold sponsors, Jerry Diethelm, architect, landscape architect, and Lubas Cobb. Before we thank our speakers today, I'd like to announce that or give a big thank you to our in-kind sponsors, KRVM 91.9 Radio, PAC Info and Simplified Computing LLC, Dotson's Photography. And of course, a special thank you to public radio station KLCC FM 89.7 for airing City Club programs on Mondays at 7. Our programs are always available on our YouTube and our Facebook page. If you are a City Club member, you can ask a question in a future taping of our programs. And if you're not yet a member, please come join us and then participate. More information is on our website, cityclubofeugene.org. In our next program, two experts in tax policies and state economics will describe very different views of how well the kicker works and what it promotes or impedes in community life. Join us for our program, Oregon's Excess Revenue, Refund or Reinvest. Please join us on October 1st More details and information about future programs can be found online at our City Club website. Now I'd like to thank today's speaker. Thank you, Robert Goldberg, for this very informative session today. That concludes today's program. Hope you have a great day.